Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I want to share with y'all that I am officially debt free, and this is actually for the second time. So the first time that I became debt free was back in 2020. I paid off my car loan, student loan debt, and credit card debt as well. The method that I used was Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. I started with the debt snowball, but that was too slow for me, so I ended up going to the debt avalanche, which I recommend. As I go through the video, I'll kind of get into that because I do feel like the avalanche method is better, and I'll explain what that is. But this time was very, very different. So the first time I became debt free, I paid off $28,000 worth of debt. This time I was $1 million in debt, and I became debt free using bankruptcy chapter 7. This video is going to trigger a lot of people. I know that people feel that you are not a good person if you file bankruptcy. For some reason, people have this idea that taxpayers pay for that. That's not true. Google is free. You know, no one pays for it. This will go on my credit. It only affects me and me alone. I see a lot of comments on my videos of people saying that I'm wrong for telling people to file bankruptcy, which is really not what I'm trying to do. People need to weigh out their options, right? Decide what works best for you, but just realize that bankruptcy is not an evil thing. I really just want to talk about just some of the things that have happened, how I'm building my credit. Now, before this, I had an 800 credit score. I was getting approved for anything and everything I ever wanted, hence why I got into $1 million worth of debt. This was not personal debt. This was all business related. However, I had my business assets under my personal name. That is a big no-no, but I'm gonna talk about that in another video. So I already did a video of the backstory talking about how I started a rental car business that flopped. The reason why I was more pushed into filing bankruptcy is because I did receive several lawsuits due to the accidents that happened in my vehicles that I just could not pay for. I did what I felt that I had to do, but also what I wanted to do. I don't have $1 million, and I would rather have a fresh start and go on with my life than to try to struggle to pay off this debt in this economy. So that's that. So let's talk about the first time that I became debt free, because I do want to talk about Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. I know that Dave Ramsey is a little out of touch. I know that, but his methods definitely work. So with Dave Ramsey's methods, I'm trying to remember everything, but I know that you start off with getting $1,000 in your emergency fund. So I did that first. After that, I started aggressively paying off debt. I started off with the snowball method, which is where you go from the smallest monthly payment and then you pay it up into the largest. So I started off with my credit cards, paying $25 a month, and I went to the next biggest credit card, which was $50 a month, student loan, which was $100 a month, and then I did my car note, which was about $388 a month. I decided to pay off the largest monthly payment because I knew that I could just crash all of the other debt once I pay off this big thing. That is the avalanche method. You're paying off the debt with the biggest monthly payment and then working it down. I paid off my car first. Once I had that extra $388, $400 a month, I just started knocking down. I went to my student loans next, paid that off. Then I went from student loans to the last 2 credit cards, and I pretty much paid those off in 2 months or so right after. It was a better method for me. I talked about this before in my Being Frugal video, where I said I had a strict budget of $80 every 2 weeks. That was all that I spent, no more than that. Also, to any bonuses that I received from my job, any extra money, oh, someone paid me back, whatever it was, I would use that to pay off debt. I acted like it didn't even exist. Once I became debt free, I ended up buying my home, and that was that. Like, life was good, and I didn't get back into any more debt after that until 2022. The only debt I had was my mortgage, which I can't really say that's debt because that was an asset. It ended up gaining a lot of equity very fast. If you remember, during that 2020 time, that is when things started getting crazy with the housing market. So I gained equity immediately. Started a rental car business. I was trying to save the business, got into a bunch of debt. I ended up buying 15 cars. Don't be dumb. The business was going really well. I didn't even have to store my cars. My cars were being pushed out back to back. So I was using my personal credit cards, my business credit cards to try to save it. By the end, I was $1 million in debt. And this is not including my house. I had sold my house before I officially filed. I originally filed Chapter 13, which is where you make payments towards the debt, and I had to do that because I had a house and it had a bunch of equity in it. I decided to not go that route because I didn't have a job and I was broke. So I couldn't pay the monthly payments. My attorney and I came up with a strategy, and we decided that we're gonna sell the house. She told me what I needed to do, and then I filed Chapter 7. So with Chapter 7, just to talk a little bit about my experience, I am in Georgia, so the laws are different for every state. I do have some resources in my bio, so if you click that link down below, it'll connect you with just more information about bankruptcy, also attorneys in your area, because it is state specific. So I don't want to get too much into what happened with my house, because I kind of want to keep that to myself. The first thing I did before I even filed bankruptcy was catch up on my taxes, because I knew that I had to be current on my taxes in order to file bankruptcy. And at the time, I was about 2 years behind. Once I filed my taxes, I already skipped this process because I had filed Chapter 13 with this particular attorney already. But I will say, if you are trying to find an attorney, there were certain things I was looking for. I interviewed 3 attorneys. The first attorney was very dismissive. The second attorney that I worked with, I liked them. The only thing was, I feel that they were charging me way too much, and it was because I did have business debt under my LLC, but also personal. With my attorney that I chose, not only was she affordable, but she was able to give me direction on what needed to happen before bankruptcy, during bankruptcy, and after. And I felt like she really cared about my situation. She's also an amazing businesswoman, so she was very understanding to the fact that my business failed. You want to find an attorney that you connect with, because sometimes you're going to have questions and you want to feel comfortable asking them questions. I could call my attorney about anything. Hey, what is this? What do I need to do about this? How do you suggest I move forward with this? And she was always ready to answer my questions. She was an amazing attorney. Like I said, if you are looking for an attorney in your area, just click that link in my bio. It'll connect you with one in your area. And it'll also just tell you if bankruptcy is even worth filing. Sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes your case is not going to be worth it. You could just pay the debt off in installments. But sometimes it makes sense, right? And I think that that's an important question to ask your attorney. Is this even worth it? For me, I already knew that being $1 million in debt, yeah, it made sense, right? With Chapter 7, that is the liquidation of your debts, meaning that you don't make a payment towards it. It is discharged in the courts and you're done. So after I filed for bankruptcy, the first thing you're gonna do is take a course. I don't know if that's just state specific, but I did have to take a course. And it's just pretty much generic information telling you what you did wrong. They're gonna talk about budgeting and how to not get into debt again. So once you complete that, you'll send your attorney the certificate, and then you pretty much just wait. You're gonna review and make sure that everything is listed, all of your debts. I wish that student loans could be included, because I know a lot of people would file if student loans were included, but unfortunately most of the time it's not. List all of your debts, make sure that everything is correct, and then you wait. During the waiting period, you may get a letter from your creditor. Do not panic. My attorney already gave me the heads up. I had about 2 letters. First of all, Mercedes-Benz was trying to say that I never returned the car. I did. They couldn't locate it. They ended up finding it later, but they couldn't locate the vehicle. I also got another letter in regards to another one of my vehicles that was crashed, and insurance paid it off. However, they were wanting to know what happened to the car, I guess, and so that was it. Do not panic when you get those letters. Call your attorney, ask them about it, and call it a day. I didn't even call my attorney about it because she already gave me the heads up that you're gonna get some stuff in the mail. She may send me an email and say, hey, they're asking about this. Just tell me what happened, give me the dates, and then I'm gonna send it over to them. So it was a very simple thing. Like, it's not a big deal. Don't make it a big deal. When you're in your waiting period, you're going to get scheduled for something called a 341 meeting or a 341 hearing, which is pretty much where you go in front of the judge and they're gonna ask you questions. Now, this is gonna sound so intimidating. I promise you it was not that bad. They're gonna ask you some basic questions. So they did ask me about the debts that I had, and he asked me, is the amount correct? It was like $1,032,000 or something. And I could tell he was kind of like, girl, what were you doing? He asked me about my job, because I did have a job when I filed for bankruptcy. So he asked me about my job. Did I turn in all of my documents? It was just yes, no, so simple. And then it was like, okay, goodbye. I did do it online. I don't know if that's everywhere, but it was a virtual courtroom. I accidentally joined in on other people's cases, but when I was in some of the other cases, I did listen. And I noticed that it's a lot of people that are filing right now. It was a lot of people that were on that list. It made me feel better when I was listening to some of the other situations, because I just really saw that life happens. I'm sure these people never thought in a million years they would be in court right now. And I wanted to really bring that up because you're not alone. it's a lot of people going through it right now. It's a rough time. Things are just so expensive and it feels like pay is not going up. So you're not the only person that's struggling. Don't feel that way. Don't feel like you're a bad person if you have to go this route. You're not. After the 341 hearing, I didn't hear anything else. My attorney was like, good job. I had to take a second part of that course and then it was done. I was debt free. Let me tell you this, because there's a lot of mental things that go on when you file bankruptcy, and I really want to talk about that because it took me so long to file. I was so embarrassed and ashamed. I hated myself for being so stupid and getting into so much debt. What you have to understand is this is your first time doing life. You're not a bad person and you don't get extra points in heaven by not filing bankruptcy. If you need a fresh start, do what you have to do for you and your family. I think it is worse to continue struggling trying to pay off debt that you can't afford and not be able to spend quality time with your family, not be able to afford groceries. That to me is worse than just saying, you know what, I'm going to have to file bankruptcy and start all over. I have $0 worth of debt. Sorry, I lied. $14 because I just got a credit card to build my credit score, which I know y'all gonna say, oh, you don't need no credit card. Y'all don't know me. I am a very frugal girl. I'm very smart with money. I made a mistake and I forgave myself for my mistake. I don't need you to because it's none of your business. You don't pay my bills. You know what I'm saying? Another thing I want to talk about when it comes to filing bankruptcy is it's no one's business but the people who are in your household. No one needs to know that. You don't have to share that information with anyone. Why do I share it? Because I'm hoping to help someone, because I'm so tired of this. I hate that bankruptcy is talked about so bad, especially because the after effects were not half as bad as the effects of having creditors call me and threaten me, getting mail and not opening it because I'm so scared to see what this person is saying. I literally changed my phone number because I hated getting those calls. I was so devastated. Y'all don't understand. I'll be out at my friend's house or something and I'll get a call from one of the banks and they're like, hey, we need a payment. When are you gonna make this payment? It's like, I don't have it. And then you're blocking numbers just for them to call you from a different number. It was so hard on my mental, y'all. And if you're going through that right now, you're not alone. It's a very hard thing to deal with. Corporations feel like really, really big people. You know, you don't realize that you're just a number to them when you're going through it until later on. Because let me tell you what ended up happening. I talked about it briefly. Majority of the creditors that I added to my bankruptcy sent me a letter saying that I could get another loan from them because they know that you cannot file for another 7 to 10 years. Corporations are gonna write this loss off and move on with their lives. You, Miss Shelby Jones, is not gonna break their business. I guarantee your money back. You're not gonna break their business. This is a rough time. Even one of the collectors told me that she was so proud of me for finally filing, because me and her had worked together and I had been trying to get a deferment and everything, and she called me and said, I'm just proud of you that you did what you had to do. You needed this fresh start. You're gonna be fine. And she cannot say that on a recorded line, but she did tell me that, and I feel like that was confirmation from God telling me that I did the right thing. I have no regrets. Now, let's get into the after effects of what happened so far. After my 341 hearing, immediately I started rebuilding my credit. Let me see what it is right now. I started at a 455. I'm at a 654. I think I'm gonna do a whole video, so this video is not too long, about how to rebuild your score. I had an 800. I know I could get back to an 800. I'm not even worried about it. But I started building my credit right after my 341 hearing, and it's easy to do with getting secured credit cards, becoming an authorized user on someone else's credit card, things like that. Consult an attorney, but I did start rebuilding my credit score right away. Getting a place to stay, that is the #1 question I get. Are you gonna be able to get a place to stay? So I already have a bankruptcy on my record from the first time I filed. It doesn't delete just because you canceled it. It's still gonna show up on my record. I did have to pay a double deposit to move into my apartment, and that was it. And it sucks because I never had to pay a deposit. When I would move into apartments, it was always like, oh, your credit score is great, you're good. I had to pay 2 months rent in deposit in order to move into my apartment now. The apartment that I'm applying to next is requiring 1 month's rent for deposits. All you have to do is let them know upfront, hey, I have a bankruptcy, how will that affect me getting approved? Some people say, oh, it has to be a year old or it has to be 2 years old. You will run into that, but then you just move on. It's apartments that'll take you right now, especially because people are not renting like that. Getting a car. I am gonna do a TikTok just showing y'all that you can go to the dealership and get a vehicle. They don't. Once I build my credit score back to like a 700 or so, then I'm gonna take y'all to the dealership with me and let y'all see that you can still get a vehicle. Life doesn't stop because you filed bankruptcy, okay? Another thing I hear a lot is, did you learn your lesson? Honestly, it's just that I don't think entrepreneurship is for me. I was fine before that. So, no. Most of the lessons I learned, I'm gonna talk about in another video. It had more to do with people than it did just getting into debt, honestly. Like, I did over leverage debt. Never do that again. But I also believe that there's a lot of pros to using credit cards and leveraging debt if you do it the right way. For example, buying a home. That was not a mistake. That was the smartest thing I've ever done for myself, and it ended up making me some money when I needed it. So leveraging debt can be a good thing. It's over leveraging debt that can get you in trouble. I think the biggest thing I learned from just my experience with all of this, like the rental car business failing and filing bankruptcy, is to not be judgmental. When people used to tell me that they had a 400 credit score, like, how? I see how now. I get it now, and I'm so grateful for this humble season, because I tell people all the time that God made me a walking testimony, because he knows I have no shame. I put all of my business out on the internet, and I'm gonna show people how to get out of these funky situations, and I'm gonna be open and transparent. Y'all can always ask me questions because I don't feel embarrassed. Again, nobody pays your bills but you. I couldn't afford to care. The last thing I wanted to bring up, because I forgot to say this, but someone had told me you can kiss your chances of owning a home goodbye. The people who say that don't even have a down payment amount saved. They are people who are not even close to home ownership themselves. I will say, when you file Chapter 7, you have about 2 years and then you could buy a home. I work in new home sales now, and I found that out. So that's interesting. You know, 2 years is not that far. I need to save anyway. I think I said everything I needed to. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you all in the next video.